Howdy. This is totally my first time recording this, and I definitely didn't spend half an hour recording something just to find out my mic was muted. For sure, definitely, trust. Anyways, this is my second Vauban video, and I wanted to elaborate, or I don't know if that's not necessarily the right word, but that's the word we're using. Elaborate more on stuff about Vauban. I have multiple builds. I only had like one build last time, I think, but this time I have 6 different builds, one of which is similar to the last one. It's the same build as the last video, but I altered things a bit. And I have more information about Vauban, and we're gonna just show off different stuff for him. So let's get right into it. Now, Vauban, the more I play him, the more I realize that he is unbelievably strong. Easily one of the strongest frames in the game. I would even say he's in the top 5 best Warframes in the entire game. He's that good. He has everything you could need. So we're going to go over his abilities real quick. Again, I'm pretty sure I went over them in the last video, but in case you didn't see that, or I have more information, we're going to go over it again. So passive, 25% extra damage to enemies that are incapacitated. This is unbelievably strong, one of the best passives in the game. It's a 25% multiplicative damage buff that comes after everything else in the equation, and it is going to be active on any enemy that is affected by crowd control. That's what incapacitated means. So any crowd control, be it from you, your pets, or your teammates, will count, or even the environments. It will all count, okay? All of it counts for this to be active, which is very strong, especially because it has crowd control built in. So, that's pretty much always going to be active. Tesla Nervos. I stick to what I said before about it being kind of doo-doo water, but that's at base. With the augments, it's actually pretty strong, right? And I will be showing you how the augment works here pretty soon. It's just extra crowd control if you have it out, and the electricity can proc Archon Stretch to give you more energy back, so that's nice. Minelayer is very good. Tether Coil, Flat Jet Orb, Vector Pad, Overdriver. Vector Pad is bad. Overdriver is really good. Something I said that was actually false in my last video was that the Overdriver will increase the damage of your Photon Strike. That is false. It only increases the damage of your weapons if it attaches to you, and your Flat Jet Orb. And same applies if it attaches to an enemy, because it throws down and then the ball will attach to whoever gets closest in time. The Flat Jet Orb has guaranteed puncture procs. That's important to note because puncture is not a bad status. It goes up to 5 times, and every stack makes it so enemies have less accuracy, so it's harder to hit you, they deal less damage to you, and they take 5% more flat crit chance. So if max stacks of 5, they take 25% more crit chance. It also has 50% base crit chance and a 2.0 crit multiplier, which is pretty good. Then the Tether Coil, something that is mentioned by a guy named Professor Dystopian, I believe is his name. He's a YouTuber. I will link his channel in the description. He is amazing. He has a 40-minute Vauban video, and I definitely recommend watching it. It's better than this video, but I still think I can bring some information of value. So I'll have his YouTube channel in the description, but he mentions that Tether Coil, even though it's not an amazing build on its own, it can only grab 2 enemies and pull them in at a time. If you have Vortex down from your 4, which has less range than the Tether Coil, and you put a Tether Coil in the Vortex, it will grab enemies and pull them in. And once they're at the center, the Vortex takes them over, and it will unlatch from the enemies and focus enemies outside of the Vortex, effectively giving your Vortex more range than it actually has originally. Now, Vortex can suck through walls, right? It doesn't mean the enemy bodies will come through walls, but they can go around walls sometimes, whereas you need line of sight, I believe, with Tether Coil, so it's not always effective, or it's sometimes, it just won't work. But it can be nice. Vector Pad is still pretty worthless. Then I have to switch my build here so I can actually go over Photon Strike. We will switch to this build. Photon Strike and Flat Jet Orb, actually, because the thing I was just talking about, the little turrets on your mines. Both Photon Strike and Flat Jet Orb scale their damage with enemy level, and you can view how the damage scaling works on the Wikipedia. So it is final multiplicative damage multiplier that comes into effect at the end of the equation for the damage, and it is a 1.0 multiplier at base when an enemy is at least level 1, and for every 10 levels, it adds another 1 to the multiplier. So if an enemy is under level 10, right, like they're level 1, it's going to do times 1 damage. So it's the same damage. 2,500 times 1 is 2,500. But if an enemy is level 11, it will add a 1 times to the 1, putting it at 2 times. So this would do 5,000 damage at base strength. So, if they're level above level 20, then it's going to do 3 times damage, and so on and so forth. What this means is that as the enemy level goes up, so does your damage to an absurd amount. It's going to scale your damage harder than the enemy's health is going to go up. So if you're doing a level cap and you're facing an enemy that is level 8,001, you are going to be doing 801 times damage on your Photon Strike and Flechette orbs. That is ridiculous. That is just insane, the damage you can do with that. It's so much damage. Photon Strike is also sucked in by the Vortex on Bastille. If it's close enough, it will pull it in, making your Photon Strike always hit the enemies in your Vortex. That can be good or bad depending on how you see it. Bastille. So the second effect on this is Vortex. It has Magnetic, which is going to be a nice effect to be applying to enemies if or after the Jade Shadows update comes out. And Magnetic is going to be more important against Corpus because of how the shield changes work, so it's just going to be nice. It also means more damage from Condition Overload, Gun CO on any of your weapons or melee because you can apply Magnetic as a status. It is one of the strongest crowd control or not crowd control, grouping effects in the game. It is very good. Bastille. I said Bastille is actually not good for armor strip. I was wrong, but I do stay with that statement for certain builds. So because it takes so long to strip, it is 10% armor strip per second, and it is affected by strength. If you don't have high strength, it just takes too long to strip armor. It's unrealistic. Which is why in the Tempest Barrage build, which I'll go over again in a second, because I slightly changed it from the last video, I still believe Tempest Barrage is the best option for armor strip there. And then it can also apply viral because of the augments. So Bastille's armor strip in that build is actually worthless. We don't care about it. But it can be used for armor strip. It's just there are sometimes ways that it's finicky and inconsistent, and there's a cap on enemies that it can hold, but that's affected by strength, and you can have multiple Bastilles out. Now, something that I stated in the last video was that you cannot have multiple Bastilles out. I think I stated that in the video. I know somebody asked in the comments, and yeah, I did say it. They said you could. So before I did that video, I tested it, and it would not let me have multiple Bastilles out. Just having the ability to throw another Bastille would collapse them into a vortex. Then, after that guy said that, he left that comment saying you could have multiple Bastilles out. I tested it again, and it was still not letting me have more than one ounce. In the video, I showed me trying to do it, and it would not let me have more than 1 ounce. I don't know why that is. I think my controller may have been broken, but for whatever reason, it works for me now. You can, in fact, have multiple Bastilles out. There is no cap on Bastilles. However, if you hold down the ability, it will still collapse existing Bastilles into vortexes. It does reset the duration, I believe, of the vortex, so it's got a fresh timer if you do that. But if you have a vortex, or you collapse a Bastille into a vortex and then throw it a Bastille, it is possible to have both out at once. Not that that matters that much, but it is something that is worth noting. Now, that is the gist of that. We are then going to go over the builds, okay? So, this build has changed slightly as the build I did in the last video. We replaced Arcane Steadfast with Arcane Aegis. I said in the video we were spamming abilities enough that even with Steadfast proccing every now and then, we'll still be able to easily get the shield gate. That is both true and not true. It depends on your RNG. Most of the time, it's not an issue, but sometimes if RNG loves you / hates you in Steadfast procs over and over and over in a row, then you're not going to be able to shield gate very often, and that's going to get you killed. So just for the sake of consistency, I went Aegis so we have better consistency and more survivability because we have Aegis on. I switched Stretch for Archon Stretch because Tesla Nervos can proc it, and I also changed it so we have Tempest Barrage over R2 instead of over R1. Before we had no Tesla Nervos because that's what I replaced to get Tempest Barrage. Because Photon Strike is unaffected by the Overcharger on our Minelayer, I don't think it's worth having, whereas Tesla Nervos is worth having to proc Archon Stretch. We then replaced the Photon Strike Augment Photon Repeater with Tesla Bank, the augment for our Tesla Nervos. I still think Photon Repeater is strong, but Tesla Nervos is just easier to proc, and it is stronger in this case. And, well, we can use it with Photon Strike at the same time. So it is very nice. But there is certain caveats to the Tesla Bank augment. So actually, let me go back to it to show you what it says. Tesla Bank, while a target has a Nervos attached, any damage dealt to it will be absorbed by the Nervos and channeled into an 8-meter burst of electricity on death. It works similar to Marked for Death, except it stores all the damage and does it after the enemy dies. But it stores the damage done to their health, so it can't do more damage than how much health they have. So if an enemy has 100,000 health and it gets onto them and you kill them, it will spread 100,000 damage. There is a problem with that. It does not start storing the damage until it attaches. So, if I were to say, do this, this is not a build made for stripping with Bastille, like I said, we're just gonna show it because it's easier than screwing up and doing too much damage with Tempest Barrage. But if we do this, strip them, then we put it down, and it attaches, if we kill them, it's going to spread how much their health was, right? So it's going to kill everything. This guy was slightly out of range, that's unfortunate, but you can see it killed all but one of them. However, if I come back over here, we respawn the enemies, I'll go ahead and armor strip them again, but this time, we are going to do damage to this enemy first. That's probably going to kill. Please don't kill, please don't. Okay, it barely didn't kill. Yeah, so now if I attach a Tesla Nervos and they die, you can see that it didn't do anything, right? It did practically no damage because the enemy was at like 1% HP, so only spread 1% HP. So if a Tesla Nervo attaches to an enemy that's already low HP, like this guy right here jumps on him, and I kill him, oh, it didn't proc fast enough. Let's try this again. Oh, well, now it killed because that guy was full HP. Anyway, well, you get the point, right? If it gets on an enemy that's half HP, it's only spread half their health as the damage. So you really want them to attach enemies to enemies with full health. So Tesla Nervo has the ability, it's little rollers. You can have up to 4 maxed out at a time. They have an infinite duration. Instead of being duration-based, they are based on how many charges they have. Every time they disperse electricity, it consumes a charge, and that's affected by duration for how many charges you get. Now, other than that, there's another important thing to note. If you put down Bastille, or wait, no, if you put a Tesla Bank or Tesla Nervo down, it attaches to an enemy, and then you throw a Bastille, the Bastille cannot pick up nor armor strip that enemy, which is kind of a problem. Because normally, if an enemy isn't picked up by Bastille, as long as Bastille has more room to pick up enemies, it can still armor strip. So you can still strip Eximus units, but you can't in this case. However, if you throw the Bastille down first, and then you do a Tesla Nervos, like a Tesla Nervos attaches to them afterwards, they can be armor stripped. So you can see it's on it, and it's still getting its armor stripped, and now the armor is gone. So that's not the end of the world, isn't that big of a deal, but it is something you might want to keep track of. So you don't accidentally not strip an enemy, because that would be a problem. That's the gist of how the augment works. It's very strong if it works, but if it doesn't work, it can be worthless. So yeah, I already explained what we replaced in this build. I think it's even better than it was before. It's kind of insane. It's stupidly strong. The damage you can do is just absurd. So then we have the 5 other builds. We have a pillage build. Corrosive projection, extremely high strength. To be able to get high enough strength, we do have a Tau Forged Red Shard for strength. Now, this is pillage because easier armor strip than Bastille, but more importantly is for survivability, so we can get our shields back. With the full shield gate, we don't need catalyzing shields, so that we get a long shield gate duration. There is a problem with that, though, is we have no shield mod. As you can see, we would need like prime redirection here, so that we could get enough shields to, here, if I put this on, to get a bigger shield gate, right? Like 2.4 seconds if we have prime redirection on. But without it, we're only at 1.4. I won't have enough strength to full strip with pillage with corrosive projection if I take off a mod. I can't get rid of any of these mods, right? Because Tesla Bank, we'd be giving up too much damage. You would get rid of August Secrets here and put on another red Tau Forged if that's what you wanted to commit to. The only build that takes the 2 green shards is the Tempest Barrage build, right? Because it deals corrosive, so it needs the green shards to full strip. If you don't have this build, you don't need the green shards, and you can go another red shard instead. I don't have that right now, but that is what I recommend doing unless you want the Tempest Barrage build. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. Energize Steadfast for energy because we don't have Equilibrium, Stretch for extra energy. I still felt like I had some energy issues sometimes, but if you got enough kills, it wasn't a problem. Now we have Scary Servos. This is a build made to have extremely high range, and it is meant to spam servos and flechette orbs. So more importantly, the servos or nervos, if you understand the servos joke is because that's what the Professor Dystopian called it in his video. So now that's just how I hear in my head as servos. So this build is very high range because strength does not affect the damage from Tesla Bank because it's damage stored after it jumps on an enemy. So you don't need strength. That being said, we do want strength still for armor strip. Because we don't have high strength, we go Terrify for armor strip instead of Bastille. It also is easy to shield gates with Terrify since we have brief respite here. Though we don't have catalyzing shields on. Why don't I have catalyzing shields on? Oh, because I couldn't fit it. Yeah, so you would replace Streamline here in this build with catalyzing shields instead, but I can't do it with what mods I have on right now. But that is what you would do, because then you can shield gate easily. So we have Terrify to armor strip. It also gives some sort of crowd control. Bastille is to pull enemies in because our range is unbelievably high. Our Vortex has a lot of range at 23.5 meters. We have decent range and we can just still do some damage with our flechette orbs, so always put those down. And most importantly, our Tesla Nervos have an 18.8 meter radius on Tesla Bank. That is a huge nuking radius. We are going to kill maps so easily with this. That is a lot of damage. Molt augmented because we are not able to full strip with Terrify until we get about 80-100 kills with Molt augmented. But once we do, we can full strip in one cast, and that will also just generally increase the damage of our flechette orbs. Then Energize is just for energy management, of course, as well as Archon Stretch. Then we have this build. This is a Breach Surge build. It's very similar to the Tempest Barrage build, except Breach Surge has replaced Tempest Barrage. Equilibrium and Energize for energy. Molt efficiency is up to you. I put it here just for extra duration, but you do not need it. We are armor stripping with our 4 instead of Tempest Barrage since we don't have Tempest Barrage. We have Precision Intensify here, and that with Transient Fortitude plus our red Talforge Archon Shard gives us enough strength to get over 250, because if you have 250 strength, you can full strip in 4 seconds of Bastille holding an enemy. It does 26% because we're at 260, which is, fine. It's more than we need. You only need 250, though, to strip in 4 seconds. So that's how we are armor stripping. It is also a shield gate build because that's just the easiest to do on Vauban because, well, he's an ability spamming frame. Now, this will do a pretty decent amount of damage, and it gives a lot of crowd control as well because of how Breach Surge works. You just slap down a Bastille. It's going to armor strip them. Then we do this, which will blind them if they weren't held by Bastille. And then we Photon Strike. Photon Strike without any sort of priming can't one-shot, you can see. But the Breach Surge effects very much do. 95k, but then 609k on any of the ones that spread out. If we were applying Viral like Panzervopavila, we would be able to one-shot. And if these enemies were like a level 1000 and they were armor stripped, we also would be able to one-shot with our Photon Strike. So it's pretty good, and it doesn't blind your screen as much as Tempest Barrage does, and it's funny. I still think the Tempest Barrage build is much better, but this is a very viable option as well if you like Breach Surge a lot. Yeah, I already went over everything in this build. We still have Tesla Bank because it's just nice free damage. Then we have our Comfy Flak build. This build is specifically targeted around Minelayer and Flechette Orbs as our little mini turrets. So something important to note about the Flechette Orbs is they can receive buffs, like weapon buffs, from arcanes and stuff. So Arcane Avenger, because it does not specify what it buffs, it just says crit chance, that gives bonus crit chance to your Flechette Orb. And since it's normally at 50%, this flat 45 pushes it up to 95%. Then, as the puncture procs build up on an enemy, if they're at max puncture procs, then and Avenger's active, you'll be at 120% crit chance, having a chance for orange crits. So this is very nice. Other things that would affect it are, again, any sort of arcane that affects damage but does not state specifically what weapon. So, like Arcane Rage or Precision, which increases damage to secondaries or primaries, that does not work. Arcane Arachne, though, which gives damage on a wall latch for 30 seconds because it does not specify, that will buff the damage of your Flechette Orbs, which is pretty insane. Vigorous Swap is a mod that also works, but I don't have that mod, though it will buff the damage. Nourish does buff the damage of your Minelayer as well as giving it a chance to apply Viral. I don't know what the status chance is at base. If I had to guess, I'd say 15 to 25, somewhere around there. It applies puncture every time because it has a guaranteed puncture proc, the Flechette Orbs, but it won't have guaranteed Viral. But it can apply Viral with Nourish active. And the 45% Nourish damage, that's as if it was modded. Since there's no mods on Flechette Orb, obviously, because you can't mod it, that just means you're getting a 45% damage buff. So 45% more damage and a chance to apply Viral to your Flechette Orbs, as well as giving you much better energy management. And, you know, when you get hit, it can do an explosion radius of Viral, applying even more. Still have Tesla Bank for free damage, and this build we have Precision Intensify, plus the strength from our Archon shards, so we can strip with our Bastille. This time it'll take 5 seconds to full strip, so a little longer than the build where it could strip in 4 seconds, but it's still viable. This is a very comfy build that's just meant to spam turrets, right? That's basically what your Flechette Orb is, just turrets everywhere. And always make sure you have Overdriver active on yourself because it buffs the damage of your Flechette Orbs as well. So that's just nice extra damage. Obviously, Equilibrium, Stretch, Energize for energy management, but you actually, because we have Equilibrium and Stretch, you actually don't need Energize. Energize is not necessary here. I would instead go Arcane Arachne. I can't max it out, which is unfortunate. You could always go, yeah, on wall latch. You only have to latch a wall for once every 30 seconds. But yeah, that's going to give way more damage to your little turrets. Then finally, we have a dispensary build. This is the exact same build as the Tempest Barrage / Breach Surge build, right? Like the Breach Surge and Dispensary, these builds are the exact same thing except one arcane and what's the helmet is. So we have swapped out for Aegis here just for more survivability. We have Precision Intensified, Transient, the Archon Shard again to full strip in 4 seconds with Bastille. This is still meant to do damage through our Tesla Nervos and Tesla Bank as well as Photon Strike, but this is much better energy management because we have Equilibrium, Archon Stretch, Archon Energize, or Arcane Energize, and Dispensary, giving us a lot of energy and a lot of ammo for our weapons as well if you need that. This is just very comfy, and this is the easiest build to use in something like Void Cascade, because whenever you're low, you just cast this and you can just sit on it or at the start of the mission, and it will give you all of your energy back in a very short period, right? Like one cast should give you pretty much all of your energy back. There it is, before it even runs out. So this is just a very nice, comfy build. Dispensary works quite nicely on him. And that's just about it, right? That's it for what I'm showing off. Oh wait, something else I want to talk about is the Mutalist Quanta. So this can shoot little orbs out, little infested balls. And I believe you can have a maximum of 3 outs at once. But if they make contact with another one, it looks like they explode. But they can shoot multiple at once if you have multi-shot, right? So if you have 200% multi-shot, it will shoot all 3 out at once in the same spot without detonating each other. So why it's important to bring these up is that the orbs are meant to shoot through. They give 100% electricity damage when something is shot through it, and what it doesn't state is, if you look on the Wikipedia, I believe 20% crit chance and status chance or crit damage, one of those I think, something like that, when firing through an orb. And that stacks with how many orbs you fire through. This affects Flechette Orb. So you can add 300% electricity and like 60% crit chance and a bunch of status chance, I'm pretty sure it's status, either that or crit damage, to your Flechette Orbs. So hang on, Mav Energy. Oh wait, I'm on a build without Flechette Orbs on, right? No, mind. Let me switch builds first. We'll go, here we go. Actually, I might as well show it with the viral thing as well, right? So what you would do is you would throw down your Flechette Orb, have viral active, and or not if you don't have viral, and you would just shoot the orb on top of it, Now all the shots that go through it will get all that bonus damage and crit chance and stuff. And it is very, very effective. So you just throw all your flechette orbs down in one spot. And then if you want like a Riven or a Mod to give it 200% multi-shot, so you get all 3 orbs on, and then you just shoot it down. And then your turrets become godlike. So let's show it off real quick. I want to show that off because it's funny. We are going to go in, make sure we have viral active. Oh wait, hang on. They're actually, the enemies are spread out. I fucked this up just a tad bit. I kill them. Oh wait, I'm not spawning them all in at once. Whoops. We'll go down and spawn a full group of 20. There we go. So we would go in, cast our Bastille to armor strip. Then I'm going to put this down in advance, and then we throw the flagship orbs down. And you can see it starts targeting them pretty randomly, but it will start doing some fairly good damage. And what makes this so good is that you don't have to do really anything, right? It's hard to hit them when they aren't pulled together, but you can do a vortex so that the flechette orbs can all hit them next to each other. And this build takes very little effort. They're mini turrets, you just throw them out and they do all the work for you. And like I said, multi-shot, so you can have 3 of these in the same spot since you can't shoot them into each other without blowing them up. That would let you have way, way more damage. That's why it's nice to get a Riven with literally just pull multi-shot. That's all you would need. So you would go split chamber and a Riven with at least 110% multi-shot. Then you're chilling. And then you might as well put Amalgam Serration on for more sprint speed. Because, you know, why the hell not? And that's pretty much it. That's Vauban. He is unbelievably strong. If you don't have Viral in your build, I think the best pet option would be Panzerwolfeifler. For example, in the Breach Surge build, because we have no Viral, that would massively increase our damage. Like, massively increase our damage. So I definitely would recommend doing that, but you don't need it in the build with Nourish or this build because we have Viral Tempest for viral damage on our Tempest Barrage. But yeah, he is so strong. I don't get why people don't realize how strong he is. They put him in like B tier or C tier when he has everything you can need. So what does a Warframe need to be strong, okay? There are different things that Warframes need, and you don't necessarily have to have all of them to be a good Warframe, but they're still important. Damage, crowd control, grouping, survivability, and that's ease of use, I'd say. Vauban's fairly easy to use. He has really good survivability. You can build him for health or shield tank if you're not doing a level cap, and in endurance, he is one of the best frames to shield gate with because he's an ability spam frame. So you can spam abilities all you want to get your shield gate back as often as you want. So survivability, check. Grouping, check. He has Vortex, one of the strongest grouping abilities, if not the strongest grouping ability in the entire game. So he obviously has that. Crowd control, Tesla Nervos plus Vortex plus Bastille. Crowd control's a fat check. He's got that right there down for sure. He has incredible crowd control. Armor, oh yeah, armor strip. I suppose that falls into a similar category as damage, but yeah, armor strip, that's another thing that you really need in Warframe. He has that. You can either build for it via Bastille, or you can put a helmet on to have armor strip. So that's a fat check right there. And then damage. Oh, buddy, does he have damage? Photon Strike, Flechette, dude, sorry about belching right there. Photon Strike and Flechette Orb both do really good damage and scale absurdly high because they scale damage with enemy level, making them do way more damage than they should against endurance runs. And then Tesla Bank with Tesla Nervos does massive damage as well. So damage he very much has, plus his passive, which is 25% multiplicative damage to literally everything you do as long as they have any form of crowd control on the enemy. So he has damage. He has everything. Why do people say he's bad? He literally checks off every single box that you need. And you don't even need a helmet. Helmet's abilities make him better, and they are very good. But you don't need them. His passive is obviously already super strong. Tesla Nervos is okay on its own for some free crowd control and proccing Archon on stretch, but then the augment makes it do insane damage if it works. hang on, let me switch to a build so I can like hover over the ability as I talk about it. Then there's the Minelayer. Even though some of the abilities on this are bad, not every frame has the option for multiple abilities, right? So let's say realistically, 2 of these abilities are good. Overdriver is amazing for another multiplicative damage buff that you can give to yourself and teammates. It also affects Flechette Orb, not just your weapons. You have the Flechette Orb, little mini turrets that can do some massive damage and apply puncture, which is a useful status proc. It's not worthless. And then it also has the vector pad, which is just funny, and tether coil, which can be used in synergy with vortex. So he's got really good abilities from his second. His third ability, which I have to switch my build again, god damn it, photon strike, does okay damage at low levels, but then because it scales with enemy level, it does massive damage as it goes up, especially when you prime enemies and armor strip. Photon strike does insane damage, and it's extremely satisfying and has very good AoE. Plus, when Jade Shadows comes out and Blast no longer it does negative damage to normal Grineer armor types, it will deal way more damage than it does now. And with the armor changes and stuff, you might not even need armor strip on like level cap because their armor won't be able to go as high. It'll have a cap. And, you know, the multiplicative damage going up to level cap, you're going to do almost 1,000 times damage on your Photon Strike. That's insane. Then Bastille, he has Bastille with the Vortex, like the best grouping ability in the entire great game. It applies Magnetic, which is good for gun CO or normal condition overload on your weapons because it applies the SAS effect. It's really good for Corpus, especially because in Jade Shadows, Corpus shields are going to change and they're going to be way stronger. Magnetic will disable the shield ability to regen, so that's really strong. Then Bastille crowd controls enemies, holds them in the air, makes it easy to get headshots to proc arcanes or build your Incarnon charge, and it can also armor strip, so he has built-in armor strip. He has it all. You don't even need helmets. Helmets are good, but you don't need them. He is an amazing Warframe. In my opinion, he is near perfect. If they made Vector Pad not what it is right now, and then they made it so the tether coil had maybe instead of 2 enemies max that it could hold like 5, I believe he would be a perfect Warframe similar to Gauss. I believe he would be flawless then. He is such an incredibly strong Warframe, and he is easily S tier. He is in the top 5 best Warframes in the entire game, in my opinion. People just don't realize. I guess it's because he's been reworked so many times that people just, you know, are used to other people's, like other YouTubers saying he's bad. But he does not deserve to be in like B or C tier in tier list. He for sure deserves S tier. This guy is just insane. So please, please try him out. He deserves it. He's so strong. Train Man is a god. So if you enjoyed the video, then maybe leave a like or subscribe. Or at the time of recording this, we're about to hit 300 subscribers, which is pretty cool. I'm still trying to get to 1,000 eventually. So, you know, subscribing would be pretty epic. And, you know, share this with anybody you know that worships Vauban, because there are a few Vauban devotees out there. I know some, because, you know, he's pretty great. And I think that's about it. Yeah, and definitely check out Dystopian or Professor Dystopian, right? I'm pretty sure that's his YouTube name. Check out the link I leave to his channel in the comments and check out his Vauban video, which is even better and more in-depth and higher quality than mine. So definitely give that a watch. And adios.